So Statham's character in this movie is a lot like Batman. He has like the symbolic summoning of bees, or like in Batman's case, bats, but you just want to call him Bee-Man? There's a Harley Quinn joke in there somewhere. I'm Bee-Man. Hey guys, how you going? Welcome back to a new video here on the channel. Today it's going to be a movie review for Jason Statham's The Beekeeper. Or should I say David Ayer's The Beekeeper. That is my god-awful Statham impression. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. So the basic premise of The Beekeeper is Jason Statham plays a man named Adam Clay who once was a quote-unquote beekeeper. And this is just an off-the-books, highly trained person. He's now in retirement and is an actual beekeeper. After the unfortunate death of his neighbor from a scamming incident, he takes his revenge out and once again has to become the beekeeper. Sounds very silly on paper and unfortunately very silly in its execution, but there are some little gems sprinkled throughout this movie. Now, when it comes to David Ayer as a director, he is very hit or miss. Again, like this movie, his film career has some little gems sprinkled throughout it. I actually really love Harsh Times. That was a really damn good film. Again, he has his strengths and he has his weaknesses, and he definitely has a look when it comes to his films. A lot of neon lights. The Beekeeper is no exception. Now, in terms of a cinematic experience, it was one of the most pleasant cinematic experiences. I went to the 10:30 a.m. session this morning, full of old people, and you just know they are going to be so polite. I remember I had to move my chair at one point. I was in the shitty cinemas, the bottom of the barrel cinemas, 10:30 a.m. Those chairs squeak like a bed on a honeymoon night. I had to move my chair and it was dead set like, I'm so sorry. But everyone was just so polite. It was like Rod and Todd Flanders just sitting on a couch for an hour 45. Anyway, back to the movie. So, my first thoughts on the film. It's a film. Unfortunately, a very forgetful, cookie cutter Jason Statham action film at that. When you go into an action movie, you think it's just going to be run-of-the-mill, or they're going to do something different and have a bit of substance and wow you. But this film is a massive John Wick knockoff. It follows that trope of ex-CIA, ex-Special Forces, who's an absolute killing machine, has retired, settled down for the quiet life, but is brought out of retirement to seek revenge. We've seen it before. John Wick had done it and done it perfectly. Now we have The Beekeeper, and I can't help but feel there are just so many comparisons to John Wick with The Beekeeper. And at a few points, it takes you out of the experience of this film. I mean, when it comes to Statham, Statham is just Statham. He's just the stoic action man with a set of lats on him that just will make him take off into the stratosphere. But then you've also got Josh Hutcherson, which he was really good in this film. He's the bad guy, and it was so refreshing after his dull performance in Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, I understand where he was coming from in terms of his characterization in Five Nights at Freddy's, but it seems like he was having a lot of fun in this film. We've also got Jeremy Irons in this film, and I just felt he was such wasted talent in this film. He could have done so much more. The writing for this film is god-awful, and I hate saying that, but it just was not done well. And this is coming from the guy that wrote The Expendables 4, so that says a lot. Case in point, there's an exchange between two FBI agents. One of their family members' houses is burning down. The other FBI agent explains it to them as a joke. And essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but the back and forth is like, hey, so do you like fires? Well, yeah, I love fires, but your mom's house is burning down. I'm sorry, what? Just fucking tell her mom's house is burning down, dude. Sense of urgency. Now, when it comes to the positives of this film, Statham, the stunt crew, they should be commended. The stunts are absolutely incredible. This is a brutal and violent film. Like, the violence that Jason Statham releases upon the goons in this film is ridiculous. You're getting fingers cut off, you're getting pipes jammed in mouths, in cheeks, everything. So it is bordering on a horror movie, but again, when Statham's in it, you can always rely on him and the stunt performers doing a damn good job. With that also being said, this is a great sounding film. Now, is it one of those films where you could definitely wait for it to go to streaming? Absolutely, 100%. But this is a beautiful sounding film that, if you are keen enough, needs to be experienced in a cinema. It's also a pretty good looking film. Again, classic Ayer look to it. He definitely has an aesthetic when it comes to his films, but it still looks good and sounds good at the same time. Now, going back to the story, Adam Clay's neighbor unfortunately passes away from being a victim of scamming. She has millions of dollars taken out of her account. She passes away. Statham then steps up, gets out of retirement, and I feel like everything was resolved in the first act, and then everything after that was just stylized filler. It kept going and going and going, and by the third act, the climax of the film, I was bored, and that says a lot when you have these beautiful stunts projected up on screen and I am there zoning out just like, what is going on? I feel like we've resolved everything within the first act. This would have been a great little short starring Jason Statham that David Ayer just wanted to direct. Done deal. Nice, tight, flows well. You could have knocked it over in 45 minutes with this storyline, but then we have another hour of just so much filler and so much exposition. They're trying to set up a world very similar to the Continental in the John Wick series, and I know I'm comparing it a lot to John Wick, but if you do see the film, you will see the similarities right there on screen. Guys, overall, The Beekeeper is definitely a way to kill an hour 45, but for the price of admission, in my opinion, it is totally not worth it. You can totally wait for this to come out on streaming. If anything, this should have just gone straight to VOD. Like I said, the pacing is a massive issue as I feel the resolution was solved within the first act and then everything that followed that was stylized filler. Don't get me wrong. If you're with your mates, it's a decent time. If you're with your partner, it could be a good date night movie at home. And yes, you could argue that it's just silly, harmless action. But damn it, man, give me some substance. The first act had it, and then it lost it. But once again, there were just too many callbacks to John Wick and just nothing really original to give it. Look, I'll give it to Statham and the entire stunt crew. The work is brilliant, makes up for the lack of an original concept. But in the end, these little positives just can't save the film with a third act that quite frankly is just boring. Save your dollary dues and wait for it to hit streaming, guys. And with that being said, I'm going to give The Beekeeper 2 Bumblebee Mans out of 5.
Ay, el estómago.
So usually I'd say let me know your thoughts once you've seen The Beekeeper, but my question to you guys, was there an action film that was coming out, whether it sounds streaming or at the cinemas, that you thought was going to be god-awful but turned out to be one of the highlights of the year for you? Please let me know down below. For me, definitely the first John Wick and The Raid. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.